Welcome to HBCU Her Voice, a place where we celebrate the powerful voices and stories of remarkable women from historically Black colleges and universities. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington, a proud HBCU graduate myself. I'm thrilled to bring you this platform dedicated to amplifying the voice of our community. We dive into inspiring stories of resilience, success, and the incredible impact these women are making in the world. From trailblazing entrepreneurs to innovative leaders, we bring you the stories that matter, showcasing how HBCU experiences shape paths and fuel passions. We'll explore challenges, victories, and wisdom. Whether you're an HBCU alum, a student, faculty member, supporter, or simply someone who believes in the power of diverse voices, we are so glad to have you. So listen up as we share insights, celebrate achievements, and uplift our community. Together, we can inspire the next generation of leaders and ensure our voices are heard loud and clear. A grand welcome to HBCU Her Voice. A grand welcome to HBCU Her Voice. It's your fabulous host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from none other than H-Town, Houston, Texas, baby. And I am in the place and back like I never left. And let me tell you guys on today, I'm so excited. I might be a little extra because I have been working to get this beautiful lady here with us because I really believe in her story. I am so inspired by it, and I do not take it lightly that she's here. I've shared that with her and showered her with that love because it's truly intentional, and I really believe that she has something to share with us on today. So we are going to do it a little bit differently. I am going to read this spectacular bio, and then I will bring this beautiful and talented and all of the things lady to the stage. So we will kick it off with this bio. I have the Dr. Sonya M. Sloan here today. She's also known as the OrthoDoc. She's a trailblazing orthopedic surgeon, entrepreneur, humanitarian who has made history in a male-dominated field. She earned her bachelor's in chemistry from Texas Tech University and her MD from the University of Texas Medical Branch, completing her orthopedic surgery residency at Baylor College of Medicine, where she became the first, you hear me, African-American female intern in general surgery and the first African-American female orthopedic surgery resident. She's licensed in multiple states. Dr. Sloan travels nationally to extend her unique approach to patient care and innovation. She is the founder of Me and We Incorporated, impacting thousands of women daily, and Sloan STEM Arts, increasing minority representation in STEM through early exposure and mentorship. She is the creator of Virtual OrthoDoc, one of the first telemedicine platforms in orthopedics, a TED Med Frontline Scholar, an Amazon #1 best-selling author, and a co-founder of National Black Women Physicians Day. Dr. Sloan is also the First Lady of the Luke Church in Humble, Texas, where her husband, the Dr. Timothy W. Sloan, you hear me, serves as senior pastor. Her work spans medicine, leadership, faith, and global service, including launching an international medical clinic in Haiti, serving over 100,000 people annually. She is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and continues to use her voice and expertise to open doors, build futures, and change lives. So if you're not standing up all over the building, you ought to be, okay? Because I am incredibly proud, and here she is. My Dr. Sonya Sloan is here with us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the place, Dr. Sloan. You are looking amazing, and I'm just happy to have you here.
I'm glad we finally got it together. Listen, this has been a whole orchestration to make this happen, but God, so we're good. We're good.
We are here today, and I wanted to make sure that I was very intentional in this season of recording to shower some love and light on women who come into our spaces, our universities, and pour their expertise. And Dr. Sonya Sloan does that. She has spoken across HBCUs, particularly Spelman and Howard universities, are really what we consider like the meccas, really, of HBCUs. So I want you to tell us about that experience, Dr. Sonya Sloan, and really how those opportunities came to be and what you like about speaking in the historically Black college and university space.
Oh, well, again, it's a pleasure to be here. I believe in the whole pay it forward movement. The how do I make sure that what I've gone through is given back to others because I was afforded the options or the opportunities. So the first time I got to go to Spelman University to speak, it was because they were needing they have their health careers platform. And so they just wanted someone that is in the field, in different fields, and specifically orthopedic surgery, as a lot of people may not know, is very limited when it comes to women and definitely Black women. There's about 32 to 35,000 men in orthopedics, and women make up less than 7%, and Black women make up less than 0.7. So to go to Spelman, it was the unicorn, if you will, to speak to those women that young women that were wanting to go into medicine in whatever field. That may be nursing, that could have been in physician assistants, dental, on top of internal medicine, surgical, or whatever else. So this was the stepping stone to just pour back into women, to pour back into people that look like me, because I never saw a Black doctor. I never saw a woman doctor in my small town of Denison, Texas. So I wanted to be that image for them and let it be a positive image.
I love that. And that's actually an excellent segue to where we're about to go. But I will honestly say, as someone who grew up in, historically Black neighborhoods and, went to Black schools and then went on to Houston, Tilson, and Austin, Texas. When I came back, I tell people this often, when I came out of that and I was dropped into corporate America, I say, oh, what happened? I say, oh, Dr. Sonya, so I was looking around longing for everything I grew up in. And that to me, I said, you know what? I knew at that time, I didn't know it was going to turn into podcasts and all the things I do now, but I knew that in that moment, there was going to be something in me that went back to grab, went back to show, and that I am a representation of what can happen, but also to let people know these are how you navigate these spaces. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. I want to ask you about childhood, because you just mentioned, you said, look, I didn't see any Black doctors, any physicians, any of that. Looking back, was there like a moment in time that you can think about, maybe from childhood, that maybe even felt like prophetic, like I think I'm going that way? Or what was kind of that inkling that there was something outside of that small town in Texas that would lead to medicine?
My mom was a nurse, so I grew up in the hospital system. She did dialysis, she did oxygen, she was in the ER. So I got to grow up in a hospital environment. So that was definitely an influence. No question about it. But it was the initial injury. I was in cheerleading and gymnastics and track and field. And so I remember I was trying to get to regionals, was in the district finals, and hit my knee coming across the 100-meter hurdle. It was the last hurdle. And I think now when you say it's prophetic, it is. When you look back and it's like, what? God has a funny sense of humor. He really does. So it's the whole thing of like, the last hurdle took me out. The last hurdle took me out. And so in that moment of injury, of humiliation from falling, from pain that my knee was subluxed, I started seeing an orthopedic surgeon that was a very nice guy. And ironically, he was a white male, but his name was Dr. Black. And he was a phenomenal orthopedic surgeon. So I got to hang out with Dr. Black. I know, right? See, God's fingerprint is on everything when you really go back and look at things. And he was so nice, and he was just like, hey, this is a great field to go into. I call him, you treat them and street them, meaning like if you break something or whatever else, usually within 4 to 6 weeks, people get better. It is not diabetes or hypertension. It's a lifelong treatment. And so that was the appeal also to go into orthopedic surgery. But he was the initial push of saying, I know you haven't seen a Black doctor or a female doctor, but they're out there, and you would be a great orthopedic surgeon. And so in listening to Dr. Black, unbeknownst to me, the road ahead, how it was going to be a lonely road, how hard it was going to be. No one told me there wasn't a lot of Black female surgeons or female orthopedic surgeons. I had no clue. So once we started, it was like, oh yeah, I can do this. it was never a question because I was raised in a Christian environment, and my mom was that person that was just like, oh, you can do this. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can get through this, the desires of your heart, you have favor, all these things. And so in my mind, there was nothing between me and that. It was just going through the process. But oh, what a process it was. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I can only imagine. That's I've thought about that, and then of course, reading the bio and hearing the first. A lot of things come with the first, like loneliness. A lot of things come with the first, like finding that confidence to stand firm. So a lot of time people hear the first, and it's a great thing, because you're breaking barriers. But that behind the first is kind of the things that a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people may not be strong enough or have the mental fortitude to stand in being the first. So I know when I was reading your bio, I had to pause at the first because every time I say it, Dr. Sloan, I'm all like, oh, Dr. Sloan, that's a heavy walk, girl. And I say it because I'm unwinding the story of hearing the first. You've already touched on it, but in rooms where you were often the only, and it really wasn't rooms that reflect you in terms of how you looked. And you've already talked about the faith that your mother instilled, but what did that confidence look like, and what did it teach you about resilience, like from a personal standpoint? Because when mom and daddy tell you that we believe in you, they really do, and we want you to have all these things and you want to increase your faith, but when you have to walk the thing, and you're not going off of mama's covering faith, it has to be built in you. What was that season like? And when did you know, like, okay, like these are Dr. Sonya Sloan's phase of faith walk and seeds of faith, excuse me. How did that come about, and how did that confidence keep showing up every day?
Every day. It was a mixture of not just your faith and your background. So you have to be secure in who you are, right? So that's part of it. But they were going to shake, they're going to shake that faith. I promise you. Medicine is humbling, not just because of what you see and what you do, but the people that you work with. It's like you think, oh, it's going to be all honky dory and everyone's going to love each other and we're all here to take care of everybody. It is a fight. And that's why, I wrote a book called The Rules of Medicine. And rule number one is trust no one. Not so much because, we're human and I can't trust you. It's in this field, we're all competitive. And to get to where we are, you had to be the best of the best of the best, and so people will show you who they are, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I had to stand on faith. I had to stand on learning how to play the game. Rule 21, know how to play the game. So my husband hates when I say, he's like, you don't have to play the game. And it's like, no, actually you do. Because if you're not in a place where people are used to seeing you, as well as you have to do this balancing act of the dealing with white fragility, dealing with code switching, dealing with entitlement, that kind of thing, balancing that to what I want, the end goal, and how I maneuver in getting there. Sometimes you got to play a game, and sometimes it's not always about you, but it's the end game, and you got to play with the end game in mind, is what I tell people. So the resilience definitely comes from the tenacity and the wherewithal to believe that God sent you and put you there for a reason, and that he'll get you through it. Was it easy? No, by no means. Were there days that I wanted to quit and kill some folks? You better believe it. But at the same time, I understood I was just a stepping stone to others that were going to come behind me. And that I, as your mama would say, you got to act right, because there's others coming behind you and you're setting a tone, precedence.
I love that. The playing the game is so timely, Dr. Song, because my son, he's 8, and he's a lot like me in terms of how he navigates the world, but he's of course quicker, right? Because like I have a certain way, like I cut through a lot of noise in rooms, and that's really God-given. It's a God-given thing. I cut through like a lot of noise. I'm like, okay, well, hey, how you doing? I'm not gonna do my thing. And he's 8, but he already has that. I didn't develop that to much, older. So playing the game, and I had to tell him now, because he kind of scares me sometimes, because he'll see it for what it is. And I'll say, son, yes, that is very well true. And I want to be honest with you, mama feel the same way. I will never tell you, differently, but how we have to navigate this way, because that brother, he just don't. Their brother's a young old man, and if it don't make sense, he really not trying to go. And I said, son, I get it. Trust me. I see it too, but this is what we have to do in order to get ourselves through this situation. So it very much is, playing that game. And, I had to play the game a long time, when Dr. Sloan said code switching, girl, I almost fell off the chair, because I said, Lord, I had to do it for so long. And when it got towards the end of my corporate career, it was wearing off. I say, let me get out of here before they put me out here. I say, because it was just falling off. I said, okay, like your mama say, come on, act right, baby, and you figure it out and you move on, because don't be in here acting crazy and tearing stuff up. You go before they put you out, because I had got to the end of that and I couldn't do it, because at the end of the day, like, this voice, this presence is something I was battling our Father about. I was battling about that, because I was like, well, I don't really know how to put it into the earth. Like, all I've known how to do is kind of operate in here. But it was always this thing. He would send me a person, he would send me a situation, and out of the blue, they were like, oh my God, like, where you come from? Like, you seem like you were literally God's thing. You just sitting here and you heard me, you seen me. I said, okay, I got you. You just gotta help me. I'm gonna walk it out. I just have to come to you and tell you that that's where I am, and be honest enough with you to allow you to really forge this path forward. So thanks for that. I want to ask you this, because this is something that's very important to me, because you mentioned in practice in medicine that it's very important, like the simple things, knowing people's name and those little small things. And that is so important to me. The respect of someone's time, the respect of someone's energy, really the gratitude behind it. I'm not talking about all the task-based stuff that we get in school. We know that. But I'm talking about these little small things that, oh man, they have made the biggest difference for me in my journey. I want you to talk about that, and why do those things matter really in patient care and in leadership, because you touch a bunch of different things outside of medicine, but those leadership things are intact with you, Dr. Sloan. I want you to talk about that and why that's so important to you.
I talked about, getting some bedside manners, because in medicine, it's about professionalism, but it rolls over into life too. You know how people know if you're sincere, they know if you're genuine, they know if you're an empath or not, and so being that person, you're more sensitive. And so you have to show up, or at least I feel like I show up authentically, because I don't know how else to act, and so people sense that. And you think that just because you do it, other people do it too. No, that's actually not the case all the time. And so I have patients after patients, they'll come in and be like, why is it that you can just break it down and make it seem so real and so relevant, and just explain it to us so nicely, where the other doctor wouldn't even look us in the eye, never really touched us. I'm like, oh, so how is that? If you're coming in to be seen, you want to be touched and you want to be handled a certain way. And so I always put myself in their seat. No matter if it's just knee pain, or if this is a patient I'm having to give the diagnosis of cancer to, it's like, how would I want this to be, told to me, or how would I want to be handled in that? It's like, and medicine again has this duality of, we got to get through certain, steps. We have to be under a certain time because you're on a crunch and a clock, but at the same time, you got to handle this person's life. This is their livelihood. This is the only way they can get through walking or getting out of bed or being able to go to work and make money for their family. And so therefore they've taken the time to come and see you, to sit in a lobby, to park in a parking lot, and to pay all this stuff, to take time off. And then all of a sudden, now what? So show up for them just as they haven't shown up for you. I don't care how minor it is. And so to me, that is the respect of who they are and what they do, but also their relevance and being in that seat as a patient. And then so it parlays over into, people as well, from the church or whoever I may meet on an airplane. Never think that you're the biggest one in the room. And that's one of those, my husband says it's better to be asked forward than to be told to go back. And that's specific, like in you're sitting in a theater or something like that. And it's like, if you assume that you're the biggest person in the room and that whatever else, you may miss the point the networking, the connections, the gravitas moment that can be impactful in your own life. And so I love sitting with patients and just finding out historically some things or whatever else, because you just never know. They may be the bigger dog in the room and you could learn some things, but if you walk in with that chip on your shoulder and that MD on your name, you missed a lot of moments in your career. And so that's something that is not necessarily taught. I think it's almost innate in just being human and being kind. But I do believe that minority physicians have it. They're more likely to have it than most doctors because we've walked a different path to get to where we are.
Oh, I can definitely tell you that is so true. And my grandparents are elderly. We've had a lot of doctor appointments. They're 77 and 81. They're primary caregivers, so we've had a lot of experiences with a variety of physicians. And I can tell you that there are some that just stand out just that much more because of that bedside manner. We've had all the things, physical therapies and occupation. We've had a whole spectrum of really the medical field, specifically in the last 2 years. And I can tell you those ones that go and listen and hear us and see us makes that experience that much easier, because we still have to do all the things. We still got to get the wheelchair. We still got to come up the steps. We still got to pay the coach. We still got to do all the different things prior to getting to the face. And I always, share a little feedback and, tell them like, hey, there is an emotional intelligence piece that goes along with this physician care. And lots of times the physicians, girl, they just take it, Dr. Sloan. I just come here real sweet. And I tell them, because the idea that this person, especially if they've had some limited mobility, don't laugh at me, girl, but I'll just be telling them, if they've had some limited mobility, that their day already starts with the challenge of having to get up and do all this extra stuff just to get ready. And then they're out of the door. And I'm not saying that you take on all these people's problems. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a level of empathy that goes with understanding that's their walk before they get to you. That's all I'm saying. That's just my little piece of change that I give. But for me personally, this podcast, I know, girl, just pray for me, okay? This podcast has, and I tell people all the time, it's made me just that much more human. And it exists to really transcend beyond titles. And we do have a range of things on the other side of the park. We've done so much. Like, I think I tell people one of the biggest things that changed me last year, or maybe late 23 and 24, was spending time with some formerly incarcerated women, all who are incarcerated for nonviolent crimes. Changed my life forever. I am not the same person, Dr. Sloan, from being an experience with those women. Because those women, and I tell them this, I said, you have something that many people do not have, and they have platforms and money and all the houses and everything. You are so pure because you come here, you tell me your story just the way, no mask, none of it. I said, you stand up in this world being accountable for what you've done, and you stand proud and you're moving forward. I say 90% of women, they're not doing that. I don't care what they say. I talk to them, go check the track record. We've had all kinds. So you can check the track record.
Yeah.
I've done the work. I've had the conversations. So to sit there and them trust somebody who they thought was so different from them based on whatever perception they had of me stepping into the space, to get down to the fact that we both just some women operating our stories, and you operating stuff that most of them I talked to had no control over. The way they came into the world, the way they sat in that thing, and they had abundance of poverty, parents were addicts, stuff that they could not control. And here you are 4 decades later, looking how you look. I said, girl, that's something. And I never want you to leave this space with me. And because somebody go out there and tell you that's nothing. But over here, we don't get the opportunity to do that because that is something. I said, because we know people with all kind of money in their bank accounts, and they go home every night and cry. But you freeing yourself.
Yeah.
That's all
I think I had a patient last week. But I think it's relevant because they also saw you show up and be real, So I had a patient last week that she, when I operated on her, she wasn't in jail, but when she came back in shackles. And so we have this, I'm very sarcastic and laugh with my patients. I walk in the room, I said, well, what the hell happened here? I said, I know I didn't do anything wrong. And so, she just started laughing at me, and she was like, yeah, I had some warrants or whatever else. And so But to still relate to her as a regular patient, as a regular person, and even, wish her well and talk to her as she's just you or I, because the truth of the matter is, in this political climate, we're all just like one ICE agent away from somebody acting up, that kind of thing. So therefore I told her, I said, don't worry about it. I got you. And I said, just hopefully you can navigate where it doesn't cause a problem with the hand or whatever else. And so she was like, I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing you, because it's that realness that you bring to a patient, that you do care, that you are concerned, but at the same time, I'm not judgmental. I'm not standing on a box. I'm not trying to preach at you or whatever else. I'm just trying to share space, share time with you,
Absolutely. And I believe that you do that. Now, I don't want to be your patient because I don't want no orthopedic problems, but if something do happen, at least I know.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
At least I know. But one of the things I love that you put your expertise, your energy into multiple places. That's what I love about your story. Because I went back and I was looking around on you have the Midas touch, you are doing other types of content and things of that sort. And that to me means a lot, because that to me means that you are intentional about pushing us forward and giving us really education. And that is, to me, I tell people I'm just really a servant and a forever learner. You can say podcast host, whatever you want to call me, but there's two things going to always be true. Okay, like it doesn't matter where you stick me. Like you can call me whatever. I don't need no more adjectives. Say she a servant, yes. She a forever learner, yes. I'm happy. Like that's who I am to my core. And when I can see a person that pours their time and their energy to other places, it doesn't just strike me as like, oh, like I'm literally so grateful for it. Because I told you, like, I know your schedule is your schedule, but you find ways to continuously pour Dr. Sonya Sloan into a variety of things outside of orthopedic surgery work. So for me, that's big. Can you tell me why you think it's so important for us, especially us, ones that look like me and you, to show up in these variety of places? And what responsibilities do you feel that you hold to be in those spaces, looking how you do?
Again, you better act right. It's that you're representing a lot. You represent not just your name, your family. You're representing God. You're representing our community, and people are critical of how we react and respond. But don't get it twisted. We're going to show up unapologetically us, and you're more likely to get the other side at this point to be truthful and honest, because everything has been snatched. The covers have been snatched off. And so we personally tread not on eggshells, but tread lightly. But at the same time, don't worry about if we need to stomp, because we will. It's that. But you represent God. You represent, I represent our church, the Luke. I represent my family, the Sloan name, the Miles name. I represent the generation before me as well as the generation that's coming after me. And so therefore, I have to be cognizant of the things I say and do and in certain spaces. But I do that unapologetically. If I do, I have intentionality and or strategy to do that.
Yeah, and it's so important what you said about understanding that generation before and then the ones after. Very intentional thing. I tell people, like, on paper, they said I was a millennial, but I really ain't no millennial. I was raised by 1940s kids. This ain't no millennial energy. When you start when you talking to this back. I said, this is not bad. And I'm so thankful for that. It was something that was just so almost obtuse kind of as a child, because it just stuck out. It was just very just sharp at the time, because, I was just like old. I came out old, But as I, get into this season of my life, I mean, it is really the most grounding thing for me. Like, I was like, okay, now finally the age trying to catch up with how I've been feeling all this time. And understanding and having someone, of course, in my household who's totally, like, I know we supposed to be on paper like 30 years apart, but I'm like 50 or 60 years apart from that boy based on my mental setup up here, because it's just a lot. So me understanding his world and knowing where I'm standing, how I'm positioned, like, I can't help but to get up every day. And like your mama say, do it right. and represent my community and my tribe in the way that I know that he has called me to do. So every day that's an active pour of me doing it just that way. I want to ask you a little bit about public policy, just briefly, because there's so many healthcare disparities, and this probably could be like a whole different thing. Like, girl, it's just a lot.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
It's just that's the whole different podcast. So I say very briefly, with so many healthcare disparities, especially affecting Black and Brown and public policy. What is one truth that you wish more people understood? Because for me personally, in my seat, a lot of people I talk to think it's just this one thing. I'm like, babe, it's a whole system of problems. But I'm gonna let Dr. Sloan speak on it. What is something that you wish that most people understood about that? Because there's so many disparities that are out there in the healthcare space, and you navigate it every day. So,
again, at this time in history, let's start there. At this time in history, I wish people understood the power of their voice. There's an author, Erica Chenoweth, I believe her name is, and she did this research on civil rights movements or movements that were nonviolent. And she and a couple other researchers several years ago, and they found that if 3.5% of that population stood up, had a voice, nonviolent, they could shake the whole system and it would change. This was what Martin Luther King Jr. stood on. This is what Gandhi stood on. This is what so many other, national revolutions and international revolutions changed the world, was because people stood up and had a voice. So in healthcare system, it's no different. Right now, people forget healthcare system is behind, if you will, technology wise, probably by 10 years. So that's the setup. The current political climate is a setup to the point where it is being dismantled so it can be controlled by businesses and billionaires that are the oligarchy that want to revolutionize how medicine looks and functions, and you have no autonomy anymore. So that with that, you have to speak up. And that's not just in the doctor's office. I tell patients all the time, I advocate for my patients to speak up. Like literally, I will give them a piece of paper and write down the notes that they need to go see a second consultant. Because if you don't agree with me, I'm okay with that. But your voice matters. So when you walk into an office, and we just talked about this, you've spent time to get up, get dressed, get in a car, drive someplace in the Houston area. That's going to be a good 30 minutes. You're going to have to pay for parking. You got to get out. You got to get into the office. You got to sit there in the lobby and wait for the doctor or wait for the healthcare professional, whatever else, only to have barely 15-minute FaceTime with them. And therefore, they may not get the whole picture of everything that's going on in your life and what, that kind of stuff. And or you forget because you're so overwhelmed. So therefore, write it down. But use your voice and tell people, like, listen, I don't care for the way you treated me, or I disagree with this. What are the other options? And so I have this thing where I said there's 3 types of patients. So the first type are maybe the baby boomers, right? The boomers are whatever you say, doc. I whatever you say goes, right? You tell me what to do. Then you got this mixed generation of Gen X and the millennials that basically are like, yeah, I was thinking that, but maybe we could try this combination. And I was doing some reading or whatever else. You got the generation after that, they come in and be like, I want X, Y, and Z. I want it this way and I want it that way. And I really don't care what you have to see because I've Googled it. I've done WebMD and AI says. So I have to deal with 3 different types of mentalities coming into medicine at this point, and how you hold those and how you take it and don't take it personally is how you're going to navigate this patient-physician relationship. Well, it's the same way with life, right? And with human beings. If you don't have a voice, if you don't speak up, if you don't communicate, no matter what that looks like, you're going to lose. And so what I want people to know, patients or just individuals, is that your voice has power and you've got to stand up. Social media is that influence platform. The other thing is just us being able to go to the protest. It may be, if nothing else, a letter or a call to your congressperson, regardless if they may or may not receive it. You've got to do something. Time out. at this point for us not doing anything. But yeah, Erica Chenoweth basically said 3.5% of the entire population is all it takes to rock and revolutionize and create change.
You guys hear how small that percentage is? Just 3.5%. Like, and I'm telling you, somebody who bet, I know you see it says HBCU, her voice. Like, that voice part is so important for me. And as somebody, and I say on this podcast often because I want you to understand this, I am the shy girl from the back of the room who could not do any form of public speaking. I want to tell you guys that. I want to tell you guys that to be so intentional right now, because when I get up and do this every day, I know that this is his. And I know that I'm called to do this because my natural innate self, this is not my life when I say it like that. I'm like, who, what? Sometimes I'm like, who they talking about? But girl, it be me. And I'm sitting here thinking about that small percentage, 3.5%, and we just get up and stand together and just use our voice. I have to fight every day to use my voice, because the natural part of me just want to read a book and don't really do nothing else. I say, girl, you can't live like this, so figure it out and do something. So this is an active fight every day for me, believe it or not, to show up and do it this way. But I know that the power that it has when I activate this whole thing. Now, don't be expecting me, to be life of the party and do all this other stuff. Now, when I'm on this whole podcast, I'm gonna do right, like Dr. Sonya Mama say, do right. I do right, and I make sure that I show up and do it with integrity and love and care and all the things. And I do it because I know alone, this ain't it. But I do know with a yes to him, he'll make this whole thing amplify and give me the words to say and the bridges to connect. He does that. So if you're watching this, it's something that's telling you, man, I need to say something about that. I need to do something about that. Just hear my voice and say, just do it. You might not have all the words and all the things, because I didn't. I still often don't. Mm-hmm. Man, your voice and that percentage, 3.5%, that girl, you have to give me the numbers, because I ain't no but nerd. I'm gonna be looking around like, come on now, what are 3.5% that we can start rocking some stuff and shaking some stuff. Okay, just a little 3.5. Yeah. Let me go here because I want to make sure we capture this. Now, I actually have popped into the loop maybe a few times. I've been over there a few times. I love the church, the atmosphere. They always welcome me. I've been to visit a couple of times.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing is about this, because I take scenes Dr. Sonya all the time on LinkedIn and all the places. And I was in the church one time, and they was like, First Lady Dr. Sonya Sloan. I say, my Dr. Sonya Sloan? I didn't know. I hadn't put two and two together. Sometimes I'll be under a rock, girl. People on my road are like, what's wrong with her? Bear with me. I'm figuring things out. I told her later, I said, just bear with me. I'll connect. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, because I've been there. I was like, if I stay a little bit closer, the look would be a question. I love the place. I've been there. So we even went to the fall festival. I took my son out there. We were on the campus. Yeah, we had a great time. He was a big old inflatable dinosaur. Everybody was taking pictures. He probably did a bunch of the pictures.
I took pictures with the dinosaur. What? I took pictures with the dinosaur.
He had a big obnoxious 6 foot girl. He just something thing. So everybody, I don't know what camera roll we on now. We probably on 100 camera rolls. We don't know who. They just said, let us take a picture. We don't know, but that's how it went down, and we had such a great time. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my God, that's when they helped with this lady, a first lady too. It was like, oh wow, like that's when the deposit. I'm gonna reach out to when I get my life right. I'm gonna go ahead and reach out to her. We're gonna get her here, and that's what we did. But when I think about all those hats, it's like surgeon, mother, advocate. It's all the things. So for me, and when I shared, you shared some information with me last week, I said, well, what does rest look like for Dr. Sonya Sloan? How do you honor rest? And what do you do to ensure that happens? Because that's a lot of hats.
Like you have to give yourself permission. It's that because part of you feel like you're always on, and if you keep allowing people to tug at you, they will find stuff for you to do. Trust me, they will find stuff from every walk of life. If that's this circle, or this, whatever, they're gonna find stuff for you to do. So choosing to turn off. That means I turn off the device. Sometimes it's like, I can't. I'm okay if the phone is in a room, you know. I've left the phone and had to leave town for like a day and was okay. Like I can navigate. I'm the millennial. I mean, I'm the Gen X, so therefore I can function without a phone, you know. My kids, however, cannot. But I think it got to a point where your body will shut down and it will tell you it's time to lay down somewhere. Go sit down somewhere, lay down somewhere, and take the time. And so what we've discovered, my husband and I, is that the smaller breaks, it doesn't have to be a 2-week vacation in the Philippines, you know, whatever. It can be the long weekend. It can be that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or it can be a Sunday evening starting and going into Tuesday morning where I know I'm going to do nothing. I'm not going to look at the calendar. I'm not going to answer the phone. I got a spa day, which means a facial and a massage. And then I come out of that and I'm going to come take a nap. And then the next day on that Wednesday, I'm back, you know. So it's the small refreshments, I think. I've learned to take naps, you know. During medical school residency, I can sleep anywhere. I really can. So to fall asleep is not an issue. The issue is at nighttime when everything else is quiet, to turn off, because that's when I am on. And so therefore I'll work harder and do more because nobody else is bothering me, right? There's no phone calls, no text messages, no kids asking questions, nothing needs to be done in the house because everybody's quiet. So therefore I will work diligently, but I have to learn to shut it off, because that 6-7 hours of sleep is pivotal for me to be able to function the next couple of days. So telling yourself it's okay, giving yourself permission, but also delegating and scheduling that downtime, because otherwise your schedule will just fill up. You know it will. It just fills up.
Yeah. I'm a little envious because you say, "Oh, I could just fall asleep anywhere." I'm like, where these people come from? I really wish I could be a person that could just sleep anywhere. I'm always up and looking, and I'm like, we travel with my sister sometimes. She just falls asleep. I say, how is that possible? You just go to sleep. I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, I will say that, you know, if I've had a special recording doing things, I will, you know, kind of drift off, take like a midday nap, like 30 minutes or something, get up. And that's been refreshing. But even in college, I remember I had a roommate and she would just always come in after class. She would just go to sleep. You know, my grandfather was military. So I woke up, you know, my 8 o'clock class at 6 o'clock in the morning, even though they were a few steps apart. I woke up at 6 and I stayed up all the way until my classes were done. And that's just how I, you know, was raised. So I didn't know what a midday nap was. Like, what is this? You know, when you raised in such a, he was military man. He got up, ran his 5 miles, went and ran his auto mechanic shop, and he did that steady, Eddie. So I didn't even realize that those seeds were there, because those kids looking at me like, girl, why don't you go lay down somewhere? Like, we finna go take a nap. I'm still up. I go to the library. I do this. I do that. They looking like this baby, that's crazy. She needs to like, and when I got to this stage, it's like, okay, now you don't have all that energy and all the different things now, and your body is telling you, you have to take a moment, take a little rest, take some breaks. And I like what you said, because for me personally, maybe just because I'm wired, like a long week and a half sometimes doesn't do it for me. Just a little short. Maybe a little short drive, and I'm kind of ready to go, because when you operate in service, it's not saying you want to work your hands to death. That's not what we're saying. But the innate part of you wants to get up and do. And that's what I tell people often. Like, it's not that I want to work my fingers to the bone, but I'm not let's just sit and look at the flowers kind of girl. And I'm okay with that. I do think. I'm just saying, there is a place for vacation. I'm not saying don't vacation and don't do all the things. That's not what Sinead is saying. But I know how my internal makeup is. I'm going to want to, I'm going to want to do a little bit of other things. I just don't want to be, this pie in the sky all the time. That's just not who I am. So for me, that was like, I feel you with that, with just a little short, little refresh, give me a little massage, pat me up, get me off the rings, and then just throw back in there and let me start doing what I'm supposed to do. So thanks for sharing. Look, Dr. Sloan, Dr. Sloan said, what have I signed up for today? What is this? But this is such a beautiful journey, and I'm so happy to talk about it for multiple ways, because I want people to see that you're standing up and you're doing it in the most multitude of ways, but what remains true is that faith, that leadership, that dedication. And often women, they think that it has to be kind of siloed and poured into this one thing. But what I love about your journey is you're able to take that internal makeup, that really good, strong foundation, and you're able to pour it in so many places. And that is nothing small. So I don't know what you be thinking about, Dr. Sonya. You better hear my voice and say, girl, that's nothing small, because you out here delivering high capacity in a number of different arenas. And I love that. I want to ask you a little bit about Haiti before, we kind of come to some more grounding questions. Served in Haiti. Wow. I just couldn't even imagine. I just know where that country is and a lot of things that they have to kind of work through. I have a couple of Haitian friends, went to school with some Haitians, and they taught me a lot, kind of a rough people. And I mean that not in a disrespectful way, because I call this Haitian brother on this phone right now. I say your people is a little rough, but hey, we still love you. Ain't no love lost, but just from, him coming here and telling me about his story, I always remember it. Tell me about the Haiti experience, and is there probably a lot of different moments, but is there one maybe patient experience that really was like, hey, that one is nestled in. I just cannot forget that one. I think me personally, because I've had a lot of global context because of my former career, it just makes me that much more open to like what's going on globally versus just like right here in Houston. So I'm kind of tuned into that. So when I started to hear so many global experiences and have so many like multicultural friends, it just kind of changed the way I look and view things. So for someone who has gone and served, now that's something I have not done yet. I have not been able to actually go and serve outside of this country, but something I definitely want to do one day. Tell us about the experience and maybe that one patient story that was just like, I cannot forget that one.
So you remember the earthquake in 2010 that devastated Haiti, that just destroyed everything there, and they couldn't get gear in there. They couldn't get food and water because the land was still unstable and mudslides, and it was just horrible. It was really bad. We had gone to do mission work for an organization called New Missions Organization that had partnered with the church to basically build churches that also served as schools for the people. And so taking them beans and rice, spoons, tennis shoes, basic stuff, right? So this is 3 years later. So we're 2013. And I remember us walking on this site where they had a campus. And I stumbled on, again, almost fell again on what was these huge concrete slabs that were all broken up in different pieces. And so I asked the guy that was the head of the organization. He says, oh, this has been cleared. This land has been cleared, but there's still parts of the foundation of the original medical clinic that we haven't been able to rebuild yet, just because they were doing basic infrastructure 3 years after the earthquake. So I looked at my husband. I was like, look, if we're going to do something, what we need to do is build a medical clinic for these people because they have no place. They were using one of the classrooms in the school as a makeshift. And so this is outside of Port-au-Prince, maybe 30 minutes, but it's right on water. And the people that came all the way around were, almost 100-mile radius just to come to that one area to get any treatment. And that included, bumps and scrapes and scratches, sexually transmitted diseases, newborns, maternal, care and that kind of stuff. So they were the largest organization that was providing care for about 100,000 people in the past year for the Legon Plateau, which was just phenomenal because they had nothing. They were making it work. And I'm like, if that ain't some Black people, listen, we gonna fix it and make it work with what we got, right? So what really got was the kid that came in had a broken arm. And so they had set it, but it wasn't set great. And so he was probably 8 years old, but both bone forearm fracture, which is common for that age, no matter if you're in America or in Haiti. And so they just asked me to look at the x-ray. And so I'm looking at the x-ray and I realized we could try to fix it. He had some something that needed padding. I went into the room where they had their supplies, and I was humbled by the lack of resources that they had, and that everything in that room was either wet or damaged or mildewed or had expired. Some of it was in the original packaging, but I would not have used it on, just anybody or whatever else. So it brought me to tears. And I know that they had me on camera, but it was sincere in the sense of like, we got so much, you take for granted, even though we complain about the healthcare system in America, it's still better than in a lot of third world countries. So at that moment, I told my husband, I said, we gotta do something. And so we built the medical clinic. 2015, we came back. They told us it's going to cost about $75,000 to $100,000. So I ended up having a event at the church called God's One Rock, and the idea was to focus on communities that needed our help.
Sure.
Not just healthcare, but just even spiritually, whatever else. And put your money where your mouth is. You say you care. You say that you're a faithful person, and whatever. Well, we raised about $45,000 that first night, and then over the next couple of months, we raised the rest of the fees. And so, in May of 2015, we took them a check for $75,000 to build the clinic. A year later, they completed the clinic, 2,600 square feet, beautiful with its own well water, well protected. They used propane for a refrigerator for the immunizations that came in from the United Nations. They were able to get, Similac and Infamil and some other stuff shipped in and whatever else. And so we went back to do the ribbon cutting. But in between that, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee called and says, Haiti is about to be hit with a hurricane, Cat 5 hurricane, direct. And we have no place to send resources afterwards because we know they're going to need it. We know you guys have boots on the ground. So what can we do with you, City of Houston, Houston Food Bank, medical programs that were around Houston to be able to send resources to Haiti? And we had the connections. And not only that, our medical clinic was now built, and it survived the Cat 5 hurricane. So it was able to be a facility that people could come to get aid. And so we were able to send aid in with Congresswoman Lee. And it was just phenomenal. God rest her soul. She was a leader before I ever even thought about being a leader, but she showed the way of like how you get things to mobilize and move, and you can make some things happen just again with your voice and with your effort and your passion. And people see that, they'll get on board. So our medical clinic's still there. With the political overturn there, we haven't been able to get back since COVID. So I yearn to go back. I just don't know if we ever will, but at this point, I know it's standing there. It's something that we built together. The Luke Church, my husband, he stood behind me. He was like, I don't know why you want to do this, but it's one of the most impactful things we ever did.
Oh man, that is absolutely beautiful. And to know that it's still standing there, and, from going there, and I'm pretty sure you didn't go over there expecting that you're going to build a whole facility. Like, that wasn't even probably a part of the plan. You were going to provide your services, and I'm like, look what happened, with taking that initial step. And girl, oh my goodness, 2,600 square feet. That's a mansion over there, ain't it?
It is beautiful. They even had their own nurses. That was what was phenomenal. It's like they have their nursing school or their own people that would be trained. And so there was a nurse practitioner out of Canada that came down and lived there for several years and helped them do almost like with their residency. They came out of nursing school and to get personalized training, whatever else. So the nurses there run it, and they were phenomenal. Like they functioned as nurse practitioners and PAs and did some surgical procedures, minor OR stuff that you do what you got to do, right? But it was phenomenal. And to know that we've done something that is going to outlast us, our legacy, I'm very proud of that.
And baby, look at us, Black folks all around the world know how to do. Like, we just don't know how to do it. We just doing a little, we just doing a little different, and we know how to take care of ourselves. We know how to make a little bit go a long way. And that's what I tell my people, my peers, the ones that are younger than me. Do you know where you come from? And I say that with the utmost respect. Like, do you really, if you really knew how I knew, like I want you to believe, you wouldn't even walk like that. You wouldn't even talk like that.
That part.
You would not. I'm like, it's not happenstance that I wake up and do. I was like, because I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know where I come from. So it doesn't matter how they, try to skew anything. You can do whatever you want to do, baby. Because I done seen a little bit go a long way, even in my own life and my family's life. Okay, we done made some things happen. You know what I mean? We know how to do it, and always have. As you move through this part of your journey, Dr. Sonya Sloan, tell me about boundaries. I know that this probably changed a lot over your journey and things you have to kind of reevaluate. Tell me about the importance of boundaries and what are you doing right now to ensure that Dr. Sonya Sloan has the proper boundaries in place?
This is a great point for anybody, but specifically Black women right now. Boundaries are pivotal for your survival, if you will. So I base boundaries off of mission. And so any organization, nonprofit or business has a mission statement, right? So it's what we do, how we do it, and the results we want to see, correct? So what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and the results you want to see. That's sort of the composition of a mission statement. And of all the businesses I've had, be it for profit or nonprofit. And so you have to parlay that into your life. Like and I want people to really get that. Like, what's your mission? What's your mission in life? And so one of the things I learned in building nonprofits, I was an early entrepreneur at age 23, my first coffee shop. And so it was, this was our mission. We're selling coffee and teas and an experience kind of thing, right? And if you had mission drift meant that you lost focus and you're over here when you're supposed to be over here when you're supposed to be here. You lose focus of your mission, then your business suffers. Your business dies. So I learned very early on not to have mission drift. So my mission in life was very clear. If it wasn't about medicine, which falls under a STEM category, science, technology, engineering, math, or medicine, if it wasn't something to do with God in the Black church, I didn't need to be bothered. And if it didn't have anything to do with my family and our legacy moving forward and progressing, I really wasn't interested. So if you came at me with the basket weaving class for white people in New York, I can easily say, no, that's a boundary because it has nothing to do with my mission and who I am. But if you come at me and say, hey, let's build a STEM school and franchise it to other churches, Black churches that can utilize this to build African-American kids up, that they can go into STEM fields and have a guarantee of 6-figure salary, therefore increasing the financial stability of African-Americans in the United States. Sign me up, right? That's my mission. So therefore, anything that comes at me now that doesn't propagate that mission, I have a strict boundary, period. And the sooner you learn that, the happy you're going to be, I promise you.
Oh man, that is golden information. That is golden information because I think especially around 2021 or so, like when I left corporate and I was trying to, there was some mission drifting going on for sure because I was just trying to figure out like what to do. Like, so I raised my hand for a bunch of different things, still of course wanting to learn. But then when I got to sit with it, I said, well, baby, you're going to do the same cycle you just left. It's just in a different location. You're doing the same thing. You raised your hand up for stuff that you know that you were not called to do, that you don't even want to do, and you don't even have the capacity to do. So that for me was...
You said earlier, you said we will jump in and fix it or try to help it because that's just our nature. And that's a boundary you have to learn to tell yourself to step back. That's not my lane. I don't need to do it. I don't have to fix it all. That part.
It's hard. It's hard as a Black woman because that's just kind of like what we do. That's just kind of what we do. Because I remember when I said, well, I just want to be able to come to this place and just do my job. I say, well, I got to be the caregiver and the mom and telling people don't come in hungover and fix your shirt. I said, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I was, it just dawned on me because it was just such an innate thing to do. That's just what I've seen women in my community do. Take care of everybody, and that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Having that caring spirit, but that would also too come across me just I gotta fix it, or let me just help you. And quickest one of the fastest tracks of burnout.
Yeah. Right. And Kamala Harris taught us all, sit your butt down somewhere. We don't have to fix it anymore. We tried to help you, but you chose this path. So therefore, not my battle. Not my battle. So we've learned the hard way.
Let me tell you something, Dr. Sonya Sloan. I got other avenues and arenas I want to touch on in this interview, but we've been sitting up here talking. I already don't feel like it, but I want to make sure that I stop here. I don't feel like it. It don't. I want to make sure I stop here again and give you roses for your strides. I do not take it lightly. You showing up here with me today. Okay, y'all just heard this lady say all the stuff she's done, all the things she's touched. We didn't even get to really talk about the STEM school like I really wanted to in this episode, but I'll have some information that I'll share about it. It's nothing small to me, because you don't understand that this is a bridge of information that you've given me. You have also given me a portal of what it looks like to walk in legacy and to do it with the utmost dignity, respect, and resilience. So while I tell people, like, whenever I do start a podcast, I don't know what folks do on their podcast, but it's my podcast. So when we do it, it's going to be real. It's going to feel intentional. And I will walk away always with something, because it's always a reciprocal flow for me. And I said, it's like reciprocity in action. I never leave not knowing something else. So thank you for even being a willing vessel for this. You did not have to. This is the part in our show we cure with our guests for final thoughts. We ask them to give some great parting words for the space that we shared, and really something that captures the essence of the Dr. Sonya Sloan. So over to you for final thoughts, and I'll be back to close the show.
My final thoughts. Again, the Pay It Forward. The movement started with a movie called Pay It Forward, where this middle school kid was supposed to do a project that would make the world better. And I think that's what our legacy is in life now, to make the world better somehow, especially with the climate that we're in. So my Pay It Forward to you is not just the rules of medicine, my book, but it's also the live unapologetically. We are here for such a time as this, and a very short time at that. And so make it worth every day. Make it time that you were well spent, that you took up space and you made some people laugh, you made some people happy, you enjoyed the little moments of time that you did have, because it's a blessing no matter where you are, no matter what season. But understand, live unapologetically who you are authentically.
I love that. And thanks for that. And I am taking that and going to continue walking this authentic path, this authentic light, and hoping to do it in a way that truly, truly honors him. And like your mama say, acting right and doing it for us too, so I want to make sure of that. But to everyone that's out there in the HBCU Her Voice podcast land, if you have lasted and for this far with us, I want to thank you. You do not have to be here. And like the old folk in church say, I love you, and nothing you can do about it. So come on back next time with another amazing woman here on the HBCU Her Voice podcast. Until then, I love you, and we're out.